What's going on, party people? This is McGarren Flack. Going to do a short little video on muscadines. So how well did the muscadines do this last year? What grew, what died, what regrew, what stayed dead, and we'll just go through that. So here we are at the lower level, well, I should say mid-level of the terrace. This is the upper level. All the muscadines that are up top here were planted a year ago. All the muscadines planted here were planted this last May, or actually it was more like March when I planted them. I have them set up here with these 4x4s that are anchored into the ground, and I have this, I think it's a 10 gauge wire that is right here going through a compression out through the side. And then I have T-posts that support it vertically. So this supports the pressure going left to right, and those support the pressure going up and down. I thought I had a good system set up, but what I did, and learn from my experiences please, is this area that was planted here has a bunch of organic material on top of that, which is phenomenal. But in it, let's see if I can zoom up here. This dirt is silty soil. So it's very silty and there's not much nutrition in it. And it tends to retain water pretty good. Gets pretty airy at times when the water separates for it. And I decided to just plant these muscadines directly into the ground and not put sand in the ground. So here we have the first one. This one is the Ison's Muscadine, and you can see here it's totally dead. We're now in, it's almost September. This next week will be September, so we're at the end of August, and it died after, it actually never leafed out at all. I don't know if I was overwatering it or if it was because we hit temperatures of 115 degrees pretty early in the season. Not exactly sure what happened, but I'm willing to bet that because I didn't put sand here for good draining soil, the silty soil held on to the moisture and rotted the roots. That's what I'm thinking. So this one, the Ison, totally died. No bueno. If we go down here, about 20 feet, I think it's 18 feet actually. This one is the next one. I got the Blue X covers for all of the muscadines to provide a little bit more humidity in the environment, since we're so dry here and we're in the single digits in the desert in terms of humidity, except for the last week. The last week has been phenomenal. This one is Black Beauty Muscadine. All of these were purchased at Ison's. The Black Beauty, it was dead for the longest time until like a month and a half ago. And I'm gonna show you what happened. Here at the top, you can see it's dead. No good. There's no green in it, it's all brown. And if I go down the tube and look here, yay, we've got some growth. So this came from the root set down below. I'm gonna try to put this back on without destroying everything. But the root decided to grow, which is phenomenal. So I decided to just let it grow and see if I can get the Black Beauty going. This is in the native soil, and it was successful. I did put some compost around the silty soil, but I think what I'm gonna do next is kind of what I did in this upper hill where I have some of these other muscadines. And that is put sandy soil, amend sandy soil in it, so I can get some good drainage and have it go across the edges. The other downside about this whole entire area is it's exposed to the sun. So they get sun all day long. And at 115 degrees, 110 degrees, the muscadines don't really like the dry heat as much. At least that's been my experience. So here we are with the Black Beauty. It is growing, which is great. This next one is the Sweet Mix. It also is very dead. can see here. This was a nice long one. It was at the very top here. It started to leaf out. It looked like it was starting to leaf out, and then all of a sudden it just died. So I'm leaving it in the soil. I will amend them this fall, the soil, with sandy soil so I get good draining, and I'm gonna build up a slight berm. So water can, if there's too much water, it can go off to the side instead of pooling at the center. Let's go to the next one. This one's the Paulk Muscadine. It also, you can see it right there, totally dead, no growth whatsoever. I was watering them the same as the other Muscadines. The other concern, thing that could have happened, is we got a late frost in April, and these had not started to show any leafy greens or anything in April. So I'm wondering if the freeze froze the trunk of the Muscadines and then they were toast. I'm not exactly sure. This one's the late Fry right here. It's in the ground. I could just, yep, there we go. Pull it out. There it is. Late Fry, no growth, totally dead. It's so sad. Now let's go to the top. Before I go into the Muscadines that are up here, I thought I'd give you an update for the grapevines that I have down there. Because of the late frost, almost all the grapevines died, and then they regrew. I got some fruit from the grapevines because of the regrowth, but they are well established. These Muscadines, not so well established. So I'm wondering if I give them another year or two, that they will actually grow the way that they should, if we actually don't get a late frost or extremely high temperatures. But it's the weather, you can't control this stuff all the time. Okay, this first one, this is the Darleen. Now, the Darleen was the only one that I planted up here because I had a Muscadine that used to be a Paulk right here. It died, and I replanted with the Darleen right here. This Darleen has grown really good. A really interesting thing, when we had that heat wave come through, it was 115 degrees, all of it died back. This part died back, everything. I kept on watering them. I kept on fertilizing it, doing everything, just hoping that it would hang on. And then the last 2 weeks, we've had some monsoon rains, and look at this growth. I mean, this growth is doing great. It's almost September, so the leaf is not going to be growing that much anymore. This is probably the extent of it, and it's gotten up to the wire, which is about 5.5 feet high. So in 1 year, that's pretty good growth for the Darleen. We come over to the next one. This is the Sugargate Muscadine. It died back, I think because of the late frost, died back, and then now I'm getting all this new growth. This has grown more than it did last year. Last year it didn't get very high, and this year it's gotten up to about 3 or 4 feet, which has been good. I thought it was toast, but I saw a little growth at the bottom and just kept on fertilizing it. I follow the Ison recommended fertilizing, which is every 2 weeks. You use a regular fertilizer, like a 10-10-10. Then 2 weeks later, you use calcium carbonate, I think is what it's called. And then you use 10-10-10 and then calcium carbonate, and it really helps them grow and try to get themselves established. This is the Hall Muscadine right here. Look at that. Looks pretty good. It also died back. This is all new growth for this year. So first year getting to the top, I'm excited that it actually made it. The Hall Muscadine. Very interesting though. This tends to bushy out a little bit more. I don't even know if that's a right term, but this one tends to get more bushy and less viney. So trying to train it to go up higher, it would just want to spread out instead of go up. But now I think it's towards the end of its life. Even when I pick off the tops of these guys, they still tend to grow back. Maybe that's because of the fertilizing, not sure. Here we have some gummy bushes, 1, 2, and 3. And we go to the last Muscadine. This is the Sweet Jenny. Now, Sweet Jenny, I have found, grows really, really well. This wire about here is almost 6 feet tall right here. And ironically enough, This was dead at the beginning of the year. I did a scratch test. You can see right here. This is the old Jenny Muscadine, and this is the new Jenny Muscadine. So the diameter is looking much better this year than it was last year. But from the bottom all the way to the top, this is all 1 year growth. So it grows all the way over to here to the weather station, which is just another foot. So I'm going to stop it there and then continue to let it grow all the way down to this post. And so I'm going to try to keep them small, not so weighty, and do some management to thin them out because they don't go the full 20 feet that is recommended. Now that I'm done with the update on the Muscadines, what would I do differently? If I had to do this all over again, what would I do differently? First off, I would just plant them directly in sand. I would take sand, wouldn't even use this silty soil, just pound in a bunch of sand and I would mound the sand so it would be up like this. And the reason why I'd mound it and then create a berm is because in the desert, the soil will just, or the water will just start to go outside of the hill if it's mounded up. The other reason I would have a sandy mound is because the root system to muscadines is relatively shallow. And if I have a mound and then it comes down like this, the roots will kind of follow the contour of that and go where the water will lead it. Then I would put compost on it and then mulch on top of that. I had to pull this mulch away because I didn't know if the mulch was retaining too much water to kind of, it was killing the muscadines. So I had it piled up a couple inches deep right here, and I ended up pulling it away to see how well it would grow. This year, after pulling it away, the fertilizer was able to get down to the roots a lot better, and it has grown much better. So to summarize, I would mound it, have a berm so that the water stays in that area for the first year, kind of break that berm and have it go further out, put compost and mulch on top of it so it was level, water it as much as I do. I probably give about 15 gallons a week, and I don't know if giving more is beneficial. Some of these do really good with that amount of water. Some of them don't, but when you're hitting over 100 degrees, sometimes you have to water a lot more or else it'll die. And then sometimes it will just die, as these ones did. Sorry about the chicken in the background. I hope that information was beneficial, and hopefully you'll have more success with planting muscadines than I have. Let me know in the comments below. I'm always interested to hear what people have to say about their wins and their losses. This so far has been a pretty big loss, but I'm not going to stop. Have a stellar day. You too, chicken.